So, I have a question for you. Do you think that your driving ability is in your genes? Is it something you inherit? Because I had a terrible time learning to drive. Do you know how many times I failed my driving test?
8.
6 times. Took me 7 attempts to pass it. And, you know, I remember there was this one time I'd taken so many tests and failed so many tests, and all my friends were getting really fed up with me. So as I was sleeping the night before my test, my friend Mary and her boyfriend, they come up to me and they're trying to hypnotize me as I'm sleeping. You will pass your driving test. You will pass your driving test. You will pass your driving test. Didn't work. I failed, sadly. But the thing is that people would try and give me lessons. And there was a guy at college, he was really sweet on me. And what I didn't realize was he took me driving, and it was a labor of love because he was absolutely terrified. I would do things like go up streets the wrong way. And my specialty was to try to find the off-ramp for the freeway and try to enter the freeway that way. It was pretty scary for anybody driving with me. But you know, the trouble is, why I'm saying it must be genetic is that my son, my younger son, guess how many times he failed his driving test?
3.
6 times. Exactly the same. In fact, there was one test he didn't even get out of the DMV parking lot. You know, if you try to set off going forward in reverse gear, that's an automatic fail. So he failed. But, you know, I think that the problem was that it's both of us. It was both his dad and me who had really bad driving genes. And I remember I'd been out of the country with my husband for a few years in China, and we come back to America and, you know, get back into a car to drive. We didn't drive when we were in Asia. And my husband came out with the immortal line, "Which one's the accelerator?" So he was totally clueless. And one of the things that I did once I passed my driving test, I passed it, but I was still a really crappy driver. I was going to visit some friends, and it was dark, and I couldn't find a parking space. It was in a little town in England, and I saw this lane, and I thought, well, I'll drive down there. So I drove down there. Well, it wasn't a lane, it was steps. It was steps, and the front wheels went over the first step. Thank God the whole car didn't careen down the steps, and I had to go and tail between my legs, go and get my friends to hoik the car off the steps to be able to get out of that particular situation. Well, you know, I think my husband tried to one-up that, because one time we were driving, he was getting very agitated because somebody was tailgating him, so he wanted to get off the road and let this guy pass. And he's driving way too fast. And what he does is he tries to stop, and there's this gravel beside the road. There's a strip of gravel, and it's a cliff edge at the end of it. So he careens down the gravel, and one wheel goes over the edge. And thank God we didn't fall out and die, because we could have fallen and died from that. But, you know, there he was trying to one-up me. We both have driven down steps in our own way. But I'll have to say that my oldest son, is actually a good driver. He got his test the first time. But the trouble was, the first car he had was sadly a Honda Insight. And I know that there may be at least one person in the audience who has a Honda Insight. I do apologize in advance for insulting your car, but this Honda Insight was a Honda Insight 2000, and there was absolutely no way in hell you could ever get a speeding ticket with this car. It was going at the speed of treacle, super, super slow. And we used to call it...
What's treacle?
Treacle, very, very slow. It's a really nasty, viscous kind of thing that you have in England. But it went really, really slowly, very slowly. And, you know, we used to call it the lawnmower. A lawnmower would actually have gone faster than this car. And it's the only car I've ever come across that had a weight limit for the passenger. Have you seen that? A weight limit for the passenger. And so that meant that when my son was driving it, his dad wouldn't fit in because he was too heavy to fit in the car. But, you know, what I drove at that time was a Volvo 240. Remember those old cars? I think that in Crazy People, Daryl Hannah and Dudley Moore, they called that one boxy but good. Boxy but good. Well, I don't know, it wasn't that good, because one time when my son was driving this Volvo over the Golden Gate Bridge, it broke down. But my son said to me, you know, it was really cool. It was so cool when I broke down on the Golden Gate Bridge. Why do you think that was? He said, well, what they do is they get this giant bulldozer that comes behind you and it pushes you off the bridge. Well, thank God it pushes you to the other end of the bridge, to the off-ramp. It doesn't actually push you over into the ocean on the side, into the bay. But anyway, those are my driving stories. I'm CJ Grace. Thank you very much.